What is going on, everybody? How are you doing? Welcome back to another riveting episode of The Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Our first broadcast show of the new week. Weren't on last night, had the post-game, Flyers and Leafs. So here I am on this Monday, January the 6th, 2025. Is it bad etiquette to say Happy New Year? Have we gone past the point of no return for Happy New Year's? If so, strike that. If it isn't, then Happy New Year. For those of you that still require it or still think it's okay to say 5 or 6 days into the new year. We got a plethora of topics to kind of throw up against the wall and see what sticks because, boy, has a lot happened since the last time we spoke. Yes, that is true. I believe the last time we talked, the Eagles were preparing for their Week 18 matchup with the Giants. The playoff picture in the NFL was still somewhat murky. The Flyers were heading into the weekend. Coming off of that Southern California Vegas trip. Team USA was gearing up for a medal run in the World Junior Championships up there in Ottawa. And Howard Eskin was still kind of hanging around. But a lot has changed, and I'm going to breach and broach every one of the topics that I said just then and more, because we have Black Monday, too, the traditional day of the National Football League that says adios to a lot of different coaches around the league. We're going to get into some notables. Former Eagles coach now on the unemployment line. And yes, I am going to address the Howard Eskin situation because you know why? You know why I'm going to address Howard Eskin? Because Howard Eskin is a god to me. That's right. Howard Eskin is the reason I'm here. Not in physical form, mind you. It's not my daddy. But he's one of the reasons why I got into sports media in the first place, because I grew up listening to the man. And I didn't necessarily like all of his takes. I didn't agree with all of his takes, but it's not about that. It was about the grinding. It was about the work. It was about the dedication to the man's craft. And it was about the performance. But Howard Eskin's under fire. And I will defend Howard Eskin to my last breath. I will. And we're gonna talk that probably at the end of the show. We got your day in Philadelphia sports history. We got your of the night segment. We got your what else do we got? Card review. We got a bunch of stuff, man, that we're gonna have to talk about. And I don't even know where I like my head is all over the place on where to start with some of this stuff. But let's take this thing chronologically as we typically do on the program. But before I jump into anything, let me remind everybody that everything you see here tonight is brought to you by the fine, hard-working folks here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network, trying to build from the ground up. We are now we're coming up on our 2 year. I wish it was 2 year. Our 2 month, no, November, December, our 3 month anniversary. That's right. October 7th, 2024 is when this network was born, and we're approaching 3 months tomorrow. We'll be 3 months old tomorrow. And we've taken a lot of steps in those 3 months, but we got to take them. We're going to take more, and we need your help. Please help us out. Subscribe, like, share, spread the word around the water cooler. Do what you can for us because we need your help. We need your help so we can be here every night to keep things at a level, even balance. Keep the keel from tipping one way or another, because that's the cross I carry here on this network. Now, the other personalities that are here and the other personalities that will join this network, they're going to have their own thing about how they do things, and that's great. But when you're listening to me, MattyB, you're going to get it real. You're going to get it in your face And you're going to get it the way it is. You're not getting the homer answer ever from me. You're never going to hear me give you a homer take because we can't afford to live our lives as homers. So, in this show, you're going to hear it like it is. But that's right. That's why you guys keep coming back, right? See what I'm going to say next. Anyway, let's get into your night in Philadelphia sports history. January 6th, 1962. So I guess a long time ago, back in the early days of the National Football League in the 60s, which was about 11 years before I was born, the NFL had a third place game. Yeah, they had a third place game. So they had the championship game, and then they had a third place game. So I would imagine the loser of the championship game would get second place, and then they would have this like bronze medal game that they would play every year. And then in 62, the Eagles had the privilege of playing in it, which, of course, if you think about it, it's a year after them coming off of their 1960 World Championship. So they went from winning a World Championship in 1960 to playing in the third place game in 1962. They got destroyed by the Lions on this day in 1962 in the NFL's consolation game, 38-10. The winner of the consolation game, or actually it was known as the Pro Football Playoff Classic, or also known as the Burt Bell Benefit Bowl. That was what it was kind of named. And of course, that is in honor of the Eagles owner, Burt Bell, or founding owner, Burt Bell. And then the Eagles, as I said, lost this game 38-10 on this day in 1962 to the Lions, I guess finishing fourth place in the NFL in 1962. I guess that's how, or 61. I guess that's how that kind of balances out. But on this day, the Eagles, 1962, lost the bronze medal game of the NFL season. Back a long time ago, they had a consolation game. Is that something you'd like to see come back? A consolation game? Say the losers of the championship game, the losers of the AFC and NFC championship games play a consolation game, like a third place game. I don't think that would really matter. I know I wouldn't be interested in that because there's only one winner and everybody else is a loser. But yeah, on this day back in 62, the NFL had themselves a consolation game, and the Eagles lost 38-10 to the Lions. And that, I guess, is a perfect segue into the first topic of the night, and that's your playoff-bound Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are locked in as a number 2 seed in the NFC, and they will host the Green Bay Packers on Sunday at the Link at 4:30. A great time slot, by the way, an awesome time slot to host a wild card game. Conjures up memories of, wasn't the Eagles and Packers a 4:30 start back in 06? Or not 06, was it 03? 4th and 26? Was that and that was a late afternoon game, I recall. Was it the last time the Eagles played the Packers at home in a playoff game? I think it was. But on this, the Eagles will host the Packers 4:30 on Sunday. Other notable games on the weekend, it'll all kick off Saturday afternoon with the Chargers and the Texans, and then you got Washington and Tampa, you got Denver and Buffalo, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and Minnesota and the Rams are your playoff schedule for the first week of playoffs in the National Football League. Later on this week, when we do the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, I'll reveal my picks to these games, all these games, to include the Eagles and Packers. But it's set, man. We got ourselves a playoff matchup. We got ourselves a playoff bracket, and we got ourselves a playoff first round Eagles and Packers matchup. And the first thing I did when the Packers and Eagles was a reality was, of course, I went back and remembered week 1 against the Packers in Brazil, which, of course, that's like a million years ago. And the teams that played on week 1 are not the teams that are currently standing in front of each other today. I understand that. But to provide some contextual context to everything, I had to go back and take a look at that game. And I found a very interesting stat line to your quarterback, your elite quarterback, Jalen Hurts, man. On that day, back in week 1 on the bad field of Brazil, Hurts was 20 for 34 for 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and 1 lost fumble. So Jalen Hurts was a turnover machine on week 1 against the Packers. Eagles did win that game. They kind of hung on and came back, and then hung on and came back, and then hung on for the win. I'm not going to necessarily look at this and provide any sort of like, well, let's base this, because everything is different now. Teams have changed. It's been 18 friggin' weeks. Everybody's gone through a maturation process. The Eagles, of course, are not a team that I will think will even attempt 34 passes anymore, as they rely on Saquon Barkley to carry them across the field. Of course, Jordan Love dinged up in week 18, but he'll be back. I think they're saying this is they downgraded the injury to a contusion. So his availability for the wild card game is pretty much guaranteed. So that's looking pretty good. The Packers, they had themselves an interesting season in that very, very highly contested NFC North. Finished 11-6, which was good for third place in the division. And then, of course, heading into this game, the news of the loss of Christian Watson, their only true, really offensive number one, I guess anything semblance to a number one wide receiver. How does that affect them and the X's and O's of things? Jalen Hurts, who's still, I believe, not cleared concussion protocol. How does that affect this game? And I'm not necessarily going to sit here and break this game down for you, because that's a little bit later on in the week. And we will break that down on the Birds Blast later this week with Kyle Quinn. There you go. There's the pretty graphic for the Birds Blast. But Kyle Quinn will be back probably on Thursday to break this bad boy down for you. But the question of whether or not this was the opponent that everybody wants, and I really am hearing a kind of a mixed bag of results for this. A lot of teams, I think, were wanting the Commanders. A lot of people said they didn't want the Commanders. Some people said they wanted the Packers. A lot of people, and some people just said they didn't want the Packers. So I'm hearing kind of a mixed bag of sorts on this. I personally, with history being what it is, and most recent history being the most recent on my mind, and not seeing the Packers since week one, I mean, obviously having the Commanders a known opponent, a known team that you play twice a season, that you played just a couple weeks ago, probably might have been the better opponent. I don't know personnel wise though, if the Commanders match up, if that's the matchup you're looking for. I think the Eagles have a better chance of winning this game at home against the Green Bay Packers than they would say at the Commanders. So I don't really know if that's even in the thing this year, right? I mean, is there a team out there lurking in the NFC that's like, yeah, I want them? I mean, this is the playoffs, man. Anybody could beat anybody at any given moment here at this stage of the season, and it's a matter of just, you got to beat the best to get to the best and be the best. And that's what the Eagles have left ourselves with. This is it. This is go time. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what the mettle of this team is truly going to be tested starting on Sunday. And if your quarterback, Jalen Hurts, can clear concussion protocol, don't forget, he hasn't taken a football snap in about 3 weeks. How is that going to be coming in this playoff game? No one's really talking about that yet. Again, it's Monday. I'll give you that. But how does that affect this game? The passing attack has not been what you would call stellar all season, even with a hot Jalen Hurts. Now you got an ice cold one, a one who has not played in 3 weeks. Does that concern Eagles fans? Is that a recipe or a blueprint for the Green Bay Packers to do what the Commanders did when Jalen Hurts went down in that game? Put 8 in the box, play a cover 0, and just say, Jalen, until you be proven otherwise, try to beat us with your arm. Because we're not going to let Saquon beat us. We're going to put 8 in the box, and we're going to let you try to beat us with your arm. Do the Packers try that? I say they do. They stay with it, depending on how Jalen Hurts goes, whatever. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. There's a lot of talk about the loss of some of the players on the Packers side, but nobody's talking about the ice coldness of your quarterback, who's coming off of a subpar season to begin with. The talk of Jalen Hurts and winning an MVP this year are absolutely ludicrous. It's probably the biggest dose of homerism I've ever heard in my life to say even Jalen Hurts belongs in the conversation for MVP. And it's the same type of ludicrousity about the damn Nick Sirianni being in the conversation for Coach of the Year. I mean, how can you have a Coach of the Year who is rumored week to week to be fired, depending on what kind of outburst he may or may not have with the fans or the media or with the players on the friggin' sideline. Everyone's lauding Nick Sirianni, 48-20, one of the best, I guess, current in the NFL regular season record. But he's 2-3 in the postseason. No one talks about the postseason record. No one's talking about the 2-3 in the Super Bowl loss. We don't talk about that. We want to run out his damn regular season record. He's 48-20. What does that trophy look like? What does the best regular season record in the NFL trophy look like? I know in the hockey it's the President's Cup, but what is that trophy in football? And they actually weren't the best record in football this year. But cumulatively, he's 48-20. What does that look like? What does that trophy look like? What does that banner look like? Have we had a parade for that? No, we haven't had a parade for that. We have a parade for the Super Bowl, which he's 0-1, right? And he's 2-3 overall in the postseason. So pump your Homer damn brakes on a Nick Sirianni Coach of the Year conversation. Some of the most ignorant stuff I've ever heard. Now, talking about ignorant, let's continue on with the Eagles. Yeah. Saquon Barkley. I held out hope. I did. I held out hope that come yesterday at 1 p.m. on the very frigid tundra of Lincoln Financial Field that Saquon Barkley would come running out dressed all in black, ready to break Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. And my hopes and my dreams were torn from my chest as Saquon stood there in street clothes, sipping a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. What was he drinking in a pink cup? Anybody confirm what that was? Sipping down a coffee on the sidelines there. I mean, I'm not telling you he didn't deserve it. It was cold as hell yesterday. But Saquon Barkley did not get an opportunity to go for the rushing record. The Eagles now have placed all of their eggs in 2024 into the Super Bowl basket. What happens if they don't win the Super Bowl? I said it on Thursday on the Birds Blast. If they don't win the Super Bowl and the decision not to go for the record, it's like a double punch to the groin. Not only did you have immortality, and of course, if you, I don't know if there's a different set of record books laying around or a different set of stuff laying around that I've never seen before, but we don't have too many records that we can say Philadelphia Eagles or Philadelphia Phillies or Philadelphia 76ers or Philadelphia Flyers players own. We don't all-time wise within their league. We don't have too many of those floating around. Matter of fact, I don't think we have any. We could have had one. Saquon Barkley could have broken that record in the first freaking quarter yesterday and then come off the field, put on his street clothes, grabbed his cup of coffee, and sat there for the rest of the game, getting high fives from everybody. But they decided not to go for it. They decided to sit him, thus putting all their eggs into the Super Bowl basket. And if you don't think it's going to be a story if they don't win the Super Bowl, if you don't think Sirianni and Howie Roseman are going to come down with scrutiny if they don't win the Super Bowl, then you obviously have not lived in this town. Because if they don't win the Super Bowl, it will be a story, and it should be a story for negligence. Saquon Barkley is going to tell you all day long, and this is what the homers are saying today. This is what the homers are saying to assuage that feeling of they know this was messed up. This is what they're saying in order to kind of continue to feed off the power teat, so to speak. They're saying he didn't want the record. All he cares about is winning Super Bowls. Horseshit. And you know it. You know it. You're going to sit here and tell me that a running back in the National Football League who is 101 yards away from immortality. I'm good. Nick, it's all about winning the Super Bowl, baby. It's all about that. Yeah, I'm good, man. It's the good of the team. Horse shit. And you know it. And it doesn't mean he's a bad person. Absolutely not. It means he's a human friggin' being. It means that he wanted to be etched inside the record book where he belonged, because this is not something that happens year after year after year. And the Eagles ripped it away from him. And I don't care what he said to the media. Of course, he's going to tell the media that. Of course, he's going to say to the media, I don't care about the record. All I care about is the Super Bowl. And the Eagle propaganda machine is going to spin that too. And the homers lapped it all up. Lapped it all up because it feeds into their narrative and it feeds into their propaganda. The bottom line is they stole an opportunity from Saquon Barkley to go for the record, to etch his name into the record books forever. And to say, and we could say, I mean, what Eric Dickerson's record now, 40 plus years and going. We could say for 40 years at least, we had an Eagle as the all-time rushing leader in NFL history. But nope, we will not have that. Not this year. So everybody sat. Tanner McKee went off in the 5th preseason game or whatever, 4th preseason game. How many? I lost track. Is it 3 preseason games they play in the summer and this one, or is it still 4 in this one? I don't even know anymore. But it was a preseason game, and you know, again, the Tanner McKee nonsense. Listen, okay, he looked pretty good in a preseason game against a team that was literally 2 steps on the bus, you know, going through their passports, making sure they had everything straight for Cancun. Didn't really care to be on the field. And they only beat the Giants 20-13, everybody. You guys know that, right? And they beat them 50-0. They beat them 20-13. So let's take that for what it's worth, too. And here we are. We have reached the end. Another NFL season in the books. Now it's time to put up or shut up. But before we put up and shut up and move off to another topic, I want to go over some records or some stats, not records, but stats from this year. Completed regular season stats as I keep track of them throughout the year. Red zone proficiency for the year. The Philadelphia Eagles were 39 for 67 in the red zone. Less than 60% effective in the red zone. Does that concern anybody heading into the playoffs? We've seen the offense move up and down the field pretty much at will, but then when they get bogged down in that 20-yard line area, things do get a little bland. They get a little stagnant. They kind of stop. 39 for 67 in the red zone in 2024. They scored 211 points in the first halves of football games this year. A putrid 12.4 points a half. 12.4 points. They did score an opening drive touchdown this week. Tanner McKee led the offense on an opening drive first quarter touchdown. Just their second of the entire season. The Eagles scored in total 8 first quarter touchdowns all year long. 8 first quarter touchdowns this team scored all year long, and the majority of them came over the last 3 weeks. Heading into the playoffs, we talked about this all year long. Are you feeling good about a team that's averaging 12.4 points in the first half? Can the Eagles continue to live on the edge of slow starts? Can they continue to live in that area of not putting up points in the first quarter, putting up 12 points in the first half, and expect to be able to come back in a game against, say, the Packers, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Vikings, the Lions, or the who am I forgetting? The Commanders. Can they live that way? I'm not even talking about the AFC yet. In the second half, they scored 252 points. A better 14.8 points per half. So about 15 points for the second half, 12 points for the first half. Still not really all that good holistically. They committed 97 penalties in 2024 for 683 yards, which is about 6 penalties and 40 yards a game. I can absolutely live with that. But what I can't live with is those unsportsmanlike conduct 15-yard penalties that have kind of dogged this team all season long and have cropped up and reared their ugly heads in the most inconvenient of times. resulting in player ejections, resulting in Jalen Carter having little tantrums on the field. That's culture. That's coaching. That's players who are not held accountable for their actions. How much of that is going to be a problem in the playoffs when it really counts? But as far as the penalties kind of across the board, I can live with 97. Less than 100 penalties on the season. Absolutely can live that way. They forced 26 turnovers in 2024. Not great. Not terrible, but not great. About 1.5 a game. You want to have more. But to their credit, that number has dramatically increased over the last 3 weeks. I mean, they were down in like the 15-14 range heading into that Commanders game, right? They were down low, but they've kind of started to take the ball away, and that's what you want to see heading into the playoffs. But 26 turnovers the Eagles forced in 2024. They committed 15 turnovers, which is great. Less than 1 a game. That's outstanding. Jalen Hurts, Tanner McKee, Kenny Pickett, the conglomeration of them were sacked 45 times for 263 yards, 2.5 sacks for 15.5 yards per game. Outstanding all-pro numbers when it comes to quarterback protection. Some of those sacks were, of course, Jalen Hurts holding on to the football too long. Some of those sacks were bad, misplay opportunities. But I can live with that. I can live with those numbers. That's amazing numbers, actually. That's a credit to the offensive line and what they've been able to do throughout the season. They got to opposing quarterbacks only 43 times for 280 yards for, again, 2.5 sacks a game and 16.4 yards a game. That number has always been a bugaboo all season. Again, they started getting pressure about week 8 or week 9, and it's gotten better, but it's got to get a lot better as we move into the playoffs. It's got to be a lot better in the playoffs. They got to be able to start getting home to these quarterbacks. And I don't know if they can, based on the fact that they couldn't over 18 weeks. What's going to change in the playoffs? I don't know. We'll see. But that's a number. That's an area of the defense that's always been a problem all season. And that's an area of the defense that needs to be kept an eye on. And the Eagles, and amazingly, on 4th down, they were 19 for 28. They went for 4th down conversions 28 times in 2024, converting 67% of them. And that's your Eagles stat pack, regular season edition, heading into the playoffs. Some encouraging things there, some not so encouraging things, some things that are trending in the right way, some things that definitely need to be kept an eye on. But there you have it, man. Another season in the books. Another regular season completed. Where does the time friggin' go? Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I can't believe it. Honestly can't. I remember it was like it was yesterday, sitting down with Kyle Quinn doing week 1, talking Eagles Packers, making our season predictions in the NFL. And here we are at the end. But this is what you play for. This is what you go through those 4 months for. Is for this opportunity to be in the playoffs. And it all starts on Sunday. So Eagles Packers 4:30 at the Link Sunday afternoon. Be there or be square, but more importantly, be here immediately following the game because we got you covered. The Eagle or the Birds Flyby, our post-game show, will be on immediately following Eagles Packers at the Link as we will break down all the action in the first round of this the first round action of this game. So, or first round action of the playoffs and this game. Some NFL repercussions. Of course, today's Black Monday for a lot of coaches, a lot of people out there in the NFL. It's the last day that they'll be employed this year for a while. Of course, Doug Peterson, notably, let go today by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jared Mayo let go by the Patriots last night. A couple of other moves around the NFL. Let's kind of get you up to date so far what I know about what's happening. Now, of course, Matt Eberflus of the Bears, Dennis Allen of the Saints, Robert Saleh of the Jets. They were all fired earlier on in the season, so they're not necessarily Black Monday, well, they're not Black Monday casualties, but they are part of what now goes with Doug Peterson and Gerard Mayo as now head coaching opportunities in the NFL. And the Mike McCarthy situation in Dallas is ever fluent. That's not a guarantee that he's coming back. So much so, and we're going to get into Mike McCarthy here in a second. But around the league, along with the other firings of the head coaches, the Colts fired defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, so he's looking for a job again. The Bears have actually requested permission to speak with Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores and Steeler offensive coordinator Arthur Smith to replace for their head coaching position. It is rumored that Mike Vrabel, former Patriot player, is the front runner to replace Mayo up in New England to be the new head coach. The Saints, as far as their head coaching search goes, have requested permission from Aaron Glenn, Kellen Moore, Joe Brady, and Anthony Weaver to interview for their head coaching position. So Kellen Moore, Eagle offensive coordinator, has been plucked to at least interview for a position with the Saints. Now, Mike McCarthy, as I mentioned, who has not been fired and was given is the vote of the death vote of confidence by your GM. Is that still a thing when your GM says you're safe? But Jerry Jones said basically Mike McCarthy wasn't getting fired, or he said he didn't know. He ain't fired. But the Bears have requested permission from the Cowboys to speak to Mike McCarthy about their head coaching vacancy. So whether or not Mike McCarthy gets fired by the Cowboys or maybe he quits, Mike McCarthy might be on the move, regardless of what happens if Jerry Jones fires him or not. So we'll see. We'll see. As far as the Jaguars go and Doug Peterson, it's always going to keep an eye on Doug. You're always going to make sure you're always going to want Doug to things to work out for Doug. I don't care. You can't take away what he did here. Can't take for granted what he did. But the Jaguars owner, so Trent Baalke did not get fired, the Jaguars GM. And Shad Khan, who is the owner of the team, has said that the next head coach will report directly to him, the owner, and not the GM. So I don't know what's going on there. Sounds like another one of those dysfunctional Howie Roseman type situations. But yeah, so maybe Doug Peterson getting out of Jacksonville was the best thing. So other news around the NFL, the Jets have requested to interview Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, Chiefs assistant general manager Mike Bergonzi, and Chiefs assistant general manager Mike Bergonzi as well. So the Jets are looking to maybe plus up not only their head coaching ranks, but a new GM. Now, Mike Bergonzi was one of my targets from last year to replace Howie Roseman. Do you guys remember that last year? I still have that. I'll put that up again. But I like him, obviously. So he might be on his way to become the Jets' new head coach. And then a couple other things, basically, just little stuff. But there you have it. So far, the Black Monday happenings not as powerful as years past. Yeah, some coaches got fired today, but pretty mild, so to speak. I don't know if more is coming. I don't know if Mike McCarthy's what's going to happen to him out there. I don't know if his future looks grim with the Dallas Cowboys. That's bad news for Eagles fans if he gets fired and he leaves, of course. But if you're not, as long as Jerry Jones is in charge, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. But yeah, there you have it. There's my Black Monday take as we get through this worst day of the NFL calendar for a lot of coaches as they found out their fate this morning. But really, by my reckoning, only two head coaches got fired today. And actually, technically, only one got fired today because Mayo got fired last night after the game. So is that an all-time low? One head coaching firing on Black Monday? I don't remember that. But that's my NFL takes and my NFL wrap-up. Remember to come back on Thursday for more of this as we will break down the Eagles Packers wild card. Me and Kyle, Birds Blast, be here or be square. Or be there or be square. Yeah. So there you have it. All right. Let's spin the dial to the ice because we got a little bit of hockey to talk about. Flyers tomorrow night will finish their home and home against the Leafs as they continue to trudge along. Game 41 tomorrow, by the way. We are at the official halfway point of the NHL season tomorrow night for the Flyers as they will square off against the Leafs in their 41st game of the year and hopefully get back to 500 as this season continues to muddle through. But on the other side of this, and a more positive note, Team USA, that's right, folks, the Americans went up there to Ottawa in the World Junior Championships and defended successfully their gold medal from last year and walked away with the gold yesterday, beating Finland 4-3 in overtime in the championship game. The first time Team USA or USA Hockey has ever won back-to-back gold medals in World Junior Championship play in the history of USA Hockey. So congratulations to the Americans who are being talked about now and the IIHF circuit as being the best in the world when it comes to hockey. And that's pissing off the Canadians. Because for the Canadians and Team Canada and Hockey Canada, with all the stuff off the ice that they're involved in, on the ice has not been too successful. Second straight year where they were knocked out in the quarterfinals. And on home ice in Ottawa, in front of the home crowd, not able to kind of win it or get to the semis or even get to the gold medal game is not looking good for the national pastime of Canada. As Team USA, or as USA Hockey, is starting to make a heavy case for being the best hockey program in the world. And you know what? I love it. And next year in Minnesota is where the World Junior Championships will take place. Team USA or USA Hockey will have an opportunity to do something they've never done, and that is win 3 straight gold medals. So they'll bring their back-to-back gold medal to Minnesota, to American soil next year. We are hosting the event, and I will be there, hopefully. I was not there this year, was supposed to be, had the credentials, just could not weather the storm. We got snow in the Delaware Valley today, but that's a bit of what the rest of the Northeast corridor has received over the last 5 days. I've been in areas over the weekend that had over 6 feet of snow. Through the Lake Ontario region of the route to Canada, so to speak, along Lake Ontario, got destroyed over the weekend. I mean, since Wednesday, it has been snowing in that area, off and on every day. And some areas got over 6 feet of snow. The Adirondack Mountains, the foothills, the Tug Hill region of the Adirondacks, 6.5, 7 feet of snow. So I could not make it out of my base camp in the valley in order to make the trudge to Ottawa. Thus, I did not show up. But we were very tuned into what was happening up there. And I thought, reported adequately. And next year, maybe I'll pop on the $200, fly out to Minnesota, and enjoy the World Juniors out there. So, but it's an American soil next year. Cannot wait for that. The Americans, of course, will have an opportunity to win back-to-back gold medals for the first time ever in their history of hockey. And serious consideration about being the best hockey program in the world, which is pissing off the Canadians to no end. Now, one other note and one closing note about the World Juniors. The last 6 years, it's either been either Team USA or Team Canada winning gold. So at the very least bit, you can definitely say that Team USA has definitely put themselves in a position of either 1 or 2 in the world. Now, of course, Russia has not been involved in the WJC for some time now due to the geopolitical situation in the world. They are definitely a player in all this, and one day when that all works itself out and Russia returns to international competition, we'll see where that all shakes out. But definitely looking pretty good for USA Hockey and the boys in Boulder, Colorado, or probably really, doing the victory lap today as the Americans won gold for a second straight year at the World Juniors. So good stuff. Good stuff. And that's my hockey take, man. It's my hockey take of the night. Tomorrow night, we'll be back at it here on the network for your Clear the Ice. Here's the schedule for the week. The Flyers, as I mentioned, are home and home. They were in Toronto last night. They'll be back here in Philly against the Maple Leafs tomorrow. Sal will have you covered for Clear the Ice. Sal will go again on Thursday against the Stars. And I have you on Saturday for the return. Not return, but the debut of Cutter Gauthier in front of the Philadelphia Flyer fans. Does he play? Does he play on Saturday? Interesting story that I'm sure will be talked about as we get deeper into the week. But I'll have you for that game on Saturday, Flyers and Ducks. So there's our Clear the Ice schedule. And one last thing, and then we'll get into our of the night and our card review. But here is a awesome fact. Of course, Thursday night in Miami at the Orange Bowl, Penn State will go after an opportunity to win their first national championship since the Fiesta Bowl of 1987 against the University of Miami, in a game that I watched, and I remember it very vividly. Matter of fact, I've watched the last two Penn State national championship games against Georgia in 82 and against Miami in 87. But on Thursday night, Penn State plays Notre Dame for an opportunity in the college football playoff semis for a shot at the national championship against either Texas or Ohio State. Goddamn. And as I said earlier last week, when Penn State first beat Boise State, wouldn't it be nice to get a Penn State-Ohio State national championship? Wouldn't this be the ultimate test for James Franklin? And this would be the ultimate forgiveness factor for James Franklin. If not only could Penn State get to the national championship, but they would face Ohio State, and then James Franklin would beat Ohio State, a team that he's never beaten or beaten once in his entire time in Penn State. And he puts to bed and puts to rest all the "you can't win the big game" talk. That would be great. And that would probably solidify him as the head coach of Penn State forever. And hopefully we have that opportunity. And Thursday night in Miami and the Orange Bowl, Penn State will have a chance to stamp their ticket for that ride. So yeah, looking forward to that. It's a great weekend of football coming up in the Delaware Valley, 100%. But let's get into our of the night topic. Let's transition to that real quick. And here we go. All right, this is the of the night topic. This is the part, or of the night segment. This is the part of the show where we sit down and we talk about a Flyer prospect, a Phillies prospect, an MLB draft target, an NHL draft target, and a Phillies spotlight or a Flyer spotlight player. And now we are in that window, right? We've been hinting about this for the last couple months. Once we got to January, we're going to open up, or we're going to spread the net out wider. We were just doing Flyers prospects, but now we're into that window of we got to start talking NHL draft. We talked about James Higgins last week. We did his spotlight card last week, or his player card last week. So now we're going to get more and deeper into this. We're going to start talking about everything except for Phillies prospects right now. We won't get into Phillies prospects until April, but we're going to get into the NHL draft, the MLB draft, and then Philly spotlights, and continue on with our Flyer prospects. But tonight we are going to start. We're gonna get it going, man. I didn't say it at the top of the show, and I was negligent. I always say this at the top of the show. 38 days until pitchers and catchers report to Clearwater. 38 days till spring training starts, and let's do it, man. Let's talk some Phillies baseball. Let's talk some Phillies. Let's spotlight a Phillies player for 2024, heading into 2025. And let's go with the BCIB right out the gate. The best catcher in baseball. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's what he claims to be, and that's what people claim that he is. JT Realmuto is our first Phillies spotlight player of this season heading into 2025, coming off of a 99 game season. His worst or his least games played in his career, dealing with some injuries there throughout the year. 266 batting average, only 14 home runs, 47 RBIs, and a 751 on base percentage, or OPS, sorry. Not a good year for the BCIB. And I think, and I would like to say that all this BCIB talk is over with. Again, I know there's some hardened homers out there that are going to continue on with that, but he only played 99 games. And I think that's the prelude to come. And what to do with JT heading into 2025? Can he last another year behind the dish? The Phillies don't really have much in catching depth behind him. They got the MC, Garrett Stubbs, and you got Rafael Marchand, but that's about it on the major league level or major league level ready. JT's entering the final year of his contract too in 2025. It's going to be a very interesting year of what happens with JT Realmuto and the Phillies. If the Phillies do struggle this year, and if they cannot get out of their own way, and if it's evident that things are not working out for them, is JT a trade candidate come late July? Do the Phillies re-sign him sometime in spring training? Do they let him go to free agency? I mean, it's going to be a very interesting year for JT and how he responds to, as I said, one of the least games he's ever played in his career. 99 games last year for the Phillies. And he was part of one of the reasons why we struggled going down the stretch. The lack of his production, the lack of his presence, everything really kind of, I think, hurt this team. And it happens to the best of them, man. You get old. Catchers is a rough position. You get old quick behind the plate. And is JT starting to get old? Only 99 games played, a 266 batting average, 14 putrid home runs, and less than 50 RBIs. A terrible season for JT Realmuto. What does the future hold for him as he enters into his final year of his contract? There is no catching depth. As I've already said, the Phillies have nothing. They got some prospects that are low level right now. Eduardo Tiait is one of those names, but he's years away. There's a couple other guys that Disson, he's up in AA. There's a couple other players there, but they're not major league ready right now. You got Garrett Stubbs and Rafael Marchand behind JT, and that's it. What do the Phillies do about catcher in 2025 and beyond? And how does JT fit into all that? And how important is he for the Phillies' success? I think he's uber important. I think the Phillies have to find a way to keep him on the field, whether it be on first base. He can play first. He could play the outfield. The problem is, do you rely or do you want to give Garrett Stubbs more work behind the dish? One of the things coming out of the season during the press conference with Rob Thompson was, you know what, maybe we should have rested JT more. Okay, so that means you're going to give more reps to Garrett Stubbs. The Phillies did not do anything to kind of, I thought when he said that, all right, maybe the Phillies were in play for maybe a James McCann in free agency, a veteran catcher who can actually give you some minutes behind the dish, quality minutes or innings, sorry. But they decided to go back with Garrett Stubbs, which really confuses me about you're going to give JT more time off, so you're going to give Garrett Stubbs more time? Garrett Stubbs provides you nothing offensively and minimal defensively. So one of a lot of interesting question marks I have about the Phillies heading into 2025 is JT Realmuto and how he factors into a potential World Series run. Again, entering the final year of his contract. Is his days in Philadelphia numbered? Is he a trade candidate if things go sideways for the Phillies this year? Him and Kyle Schwarber both entering the final years of their deals. So there's your first Phillies spotlight of the year. JT Realmuto. That does my heart good. We're talking about Phillies baseball in January. That means we're getting close. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. JT Realmuto, not the BCIB. Logan O'Hoppe might be closer to the BCIB than friggin' JT. Don't get me started on O'Hoppe, man. Oh, man, I don't want to go there. I was enjoying the night, but there you go. It's going to be an interesting year to see what JT does and see what the Phillies do with JT. So there's your other night segment. And again, it's great to be able to cast the net wide with this now and go into a lot more topics than just Flyer prospects. That's all we've been doing for the last few months. But now, as we're entering into the different phases of seasons and different times of year, we got to start breaking other stuff down. And we are. So the other night segment has been renewed, so to speak. All right, let's go to my favorite part of the show.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
That's right. And MattyB's card review. This is the part of the show where we take one of my very vast sports cards and we just kick it around a bit. We talk about it. We discuss financial implications. We discuss nostalgia about when I got this card. We talk intrinsic value, just talk about it. Just have some fun with it. We've been working this for a few months now. It is definitely the best part of my night. I enjoy it. And we're going to keep it going. And we're staying in baseball, but we're getting off the 87 tops, which is good. But we're staying with tops. We're going from 87 to 88 tops to one of my favorite Phillies pitchers of all times. Yes, one of my favorite Phillies pitchers of all times. Matter of fact, I remember watching his Cy Young award-winning season firsthand in 1987 and rooting along with him all the way. And that's right. If I mention 1987, Phillies pitcher Cy Young, you should already know who I'm talking about. That's right. You should already know who I'm talking about. Bedrock. That's right. Steve Bedrosian. Tonight's card is Bedrosian's 88 tops National League All-Star card. Not his player card from the 88 tops, but his All-Star card from the 88 tops. Of course, pulling from his stats of 87 and a season in which he won the Cy Young Award as a closer. An amazing season he had for the Phillies en route to that Cy Young Award-winning season. His career spanned, it lasted for about 15, 16, 17 years. Highlights of his career, he was an all-star in that 87 year. He was a World Series champion with the Braves in 91. He won the Cy Young in 87. He was the NL Roll Leads Relief Man of the Year. Remember that? And remember that award in 87? And then, of course, the saves leader in 87 as well in the National League. So a great 87 year. Really highlighted or capstoned a very quality career. Was he as locked down his entire career that he was in 87? No, of course not. But he was very good through most of his season. And 87, of course, was the capstone year where it all came into place for him, winning the Cy Young Award as a relief pitcher and as a closer for the Phillies, and capping a great year in a otherwise terrible season for the Phillies. But definitely one of my favorite players growing up. And this card financially, it's a $40 card. That's right. I found this card as a PSA 9, around $40 for a 1988 Steve Bedrosian All-Star card. A PSA 9, $40, pretty impressive. I don't have a PSA 9. I have, of course, all my cards are ungraded, but I got a pretty clean version of this card that I'm about to show you. I might be sitting on a $40 card. And here you go. Here it is. Here is my 1988 Steve Bedrosian. Its centering is really good. The edges are very sharp. The quality is very good. There's no fading. There's no defects on the surface. I could be sitting on a $40 card here, which is interesting to me that this card would even be $40, but it is. And it goes along with a great Phillies player in history, in our history, in my own personal history, as I personally watched him win the Cy Young Award, win the Cy Young back in 87. So there you have it. Our card of the night, Steve Bedrosian of the Phillies, the 1988 Topps NL All-Star card. So another card review segment in the books, complete and done. So that is going to take me to the end of the show. I have one more thing I want to talk about because this is what really kind of drove my show tonight, at least in the conception of it. And I was trying to figure out where to work it in. But it's time for me to address Howard Eskin. It's time for me to address the backlash of the Howard Eskin situation as far as I see it. And I'm going to take a very interesting point of view on this because here's how it works. There's two sides of this fight. There's the 50-plus-year-olds and there's the 40 younger year olds. That's the sides. Okay. The 50-plus group, which is a group that I'm in, grew up with Howard. We were there when it all started. We were there when we first tuned in at 610 WIP. And it came to life and it was 24-hour sports radio. And it was Howard Eskin's voice that we heard. We were there. We were in Philadelphia growing up or living here in the dark days where sports radio was a segment on talk radio station. It was 2 hours a day, whatever. But we were there for when it all came to life. We were also there when Channel 29 went to Fox and also started its 10 o'clock 1 hour news thing. And Howard Eskin was the sports lead. We were there for that. We watched the maturation of Philadelphia sports as it took over as the number one sports town in America because of Howard Eskin. We were there. We saw it. You, younger group, are picking off the scraps of what was left by us. You don't know what it's like to grow up without 24-hour sports talk. You don't know what it's like to grow up without, at your fingertips, gratification. We do. And so when Howard Eskin arrived and came onto the scene to be the voice of that, regardless of whether or not you agreed or disagreed with the man, that's not what this was about. It was about the voice. It was about the avenue. It was about the ability to call in whenever you wanted, to talk to whomever you wanted, to voice your opinion. And then not to get your opinion sugar-coated and agreed with if you were disagreed with. You got it right back at you if it wasn't agreed with. There's nothing wrong with that. That is how we were raised. By our fathers, by our grandfathers. That's how we were raised in this city. You younger ones, you're a little soft. That's the bottom line for me. You're a little soft. You have to know everything is okay and everything is all right. But it's not always all right and okay. There are problems. Kevin Kincaid, who unfortunately apparently went to Father Judge's, so did I. We both went to the same high school, is a douchebag. A soft-ass millennial. I don't know if maybe I've pushed him to a locker probably in our days at Judge. I don't know him, but I'm sure maybe I beat him up once or twice because he's a dork. Basically, badmouth the entire Generation X and above for our allegiance to Howard Eskin. It's not because we love the man or that he cannot do no wrong. Howard has screwed up in the past. Yeah, he has. But guess what? So have I. So has everybody else. And to go on this malicious attack against a man who delivered sports talk radio to this town and propelled this city to the number one ranking nationally. Is he a performer? Does he like the camera? Guess what? Yeah, he does. You got to be in this business. It's part of the job. Is this shtick about calling you a dope and a moron? It's funny. It's hilarious. It's not personal. Howard Eskin, to me, is a god. Howard Eskin, to me, will always be the king. And speaking as the CEO of It's a Rap Sports, speaking as the chief operating officer of It's a Rap Sports, speaking of as the Lord of It's a Rap Sports, Howard Eskin has a home here whenever he wants it. He's got a place here whenever he wants it. He can hang his hat here whenever he wants it. Come here and do whatever he wants to do. He can speak his mind whenever he wants. Now, as far as those individuals who do not know why I'm ranting and raving about Howard Eskin, I am going to explain why. Apparently, over the summer, there was an incident at Citizen Bank Park, which I have not heard the second side to the story. I've only heard one side. So I'm not going to comment fully. I am going to comment to what I know, that Howard unwittingly gave a Amerik employee a kiss. That's all I know. Well, he was banned from Citizen Bank Park for that. Again, I don't know the other side of the story. I'm not going to prepare to comment. It is what it is. About 3 weeks ago, Howard decided to abruptly step down and leave WIP. Speculation began to kind of consume a lot of people about why all of a sudden now, after apparently retaining his job after the issue over the summer, why is he now leaving? It was then brought up by Angelo Cataldi that another incident occurred at some point in December. Non-sexual, but another incident. The other day on the Dan Silio show was brought up that Angelo said that Howard, the night that Brandon Graham spoke out of school about a relationship problem between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, was apparently word came down from Mount Novacare Complex to get Brandon Graham out of Chickies and Pete's. He's talking too much. He's saying too much. By the way, hey, homers, guess what? There's a relationship problem between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Apparently, and it's a pretty severe one, if old St. Howie and Lord Jeffrey don't want Brandon Graham talking about it. So how do you feel about the Eagles lying to you too, homers? How do you feel about that? And that's a separate argument at another time. But word came down to get Brandon Graham out of there. Now, whether or not word came directly to Howard Eskin through Jeff Lurie, or it came through another source. Some say Fat Dom was involved somehow. But anyway, Howard Eskin was talking to Brandon Graham about something. And this is what I know. A person working for WIP interjected themselves into the conversation. Howard allegedly shouted back at the person, basically, hey, that's rude. Don't interrupt me. I'm talking. That upset the woman. She walked off. He followed after her, tapped her on the arm. She did not respond to his apology and whatever. And that was the end of that. It's what I know. A couple of days later, then 2 weeks later, Howard Eskin can't go to the Eagles games. So essentially, he was doing the bidding of Lord Jeffrey and St. Howie, but when it went bad, the Eagles cut him free. How's that make you feel, homers? That's some loyalty right there. That's some DEI bullshit. That's what that is. Then he's done with WIP. So he steps down from WIP, and now he can't be involved with the Eagles as well. And now there's a smear campaign against Howard Eskin about the chickens coming home to roost, so to speak. Of course, nobody has the whole thing. Nobody knows the other sides of the story. Howard has come out and tried to defend himself the last couple of days from the attack. Apparently, employees at WIP are going after him. Young millennial, wet behind the ear children are attacking him for his style. I thank you, Howard Eskin, for being you. I don't always agree with you. I don't always appreciate your takes. But guess what? It's not personal. It's business. It's fun. It's sports. We're having a good conversation. And if you can't handle being called a dope or a moron, you're a product of the society we live in, and I really can't be that upset with you. But that's the problem. There is a generational issue when it comes to Howard Eskin in the city of Philadelphia. The younger generation is soft. They're soft. They're babies. They can't handle it. I can handle it. A lot of my Generation X compadres can handle it. And Howard, you have an open voice here anytime you want. I am giving you an open invitation at any time to come here and do whatever you want, whenever you want. Because regardless if I agree with you or not agree with you, I will not tolerate a cancel culture. Because I deal with that all the time too. I deal with people trying to cancel me out because they don't like what I say. It doesn't work like that. You don't have to agree with me. I don't care. But you don't have the right to cancel me out. But this generation of soft ass people think because they don't agree with you, you're either A, offensive, B, a criminal, C, rude, D, whatever. No, you're a human being who has the right to their own opinion. If you don't like what I say, then turn me off. But you don't have the right to cancel me. You don't have the right to cancel Howard Eskin. You don't have the right to cancel nobody. Who in the hell died and made you king? I know Howard Eskin didn't. So, King, if you can hear this tonight, and if you're out there, I want you to understand that I love you. I love you, Howard Eskin. And you have a home here whenever you want it, to speak your mind whenever you want to speak it. Because it's America, the last time I checked. Freedom of speech will be protected at all costs on this network. I put my life on the line to protect it. So that was my Howard Eskin bit. I had to get it off my chest because I'm tired of people that don't like something feel that they're almighty, that they can cancel it, that they can stop it. They can't. You're in the same boat as I. You tolerate it. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. So great talking with you tonight. Man, ending things on a soft, light topic. Right. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was fun. I had a good night. We talked your day in Philadelphia sports history, which was the third place consolation game of the 1961 NFL season, where the Eagles lost 38-10 to the Lions, thus finishing in fourth place in the NFL in 1962. We did recap the Eagles as they get ready for the Packers in the wild card. We went over the Eagles stat pack of the season, talking about some alarming stats about where this team is headed offensively, where this team is headed with turnovers. How are they going to be with these notorious slow starts of games? We talked about Jalen Hurts in his week 1 matchup with the Packers and how he was a straight turnover machine. Is that something that he can get under control? Of course, there are 2 different teams at this point, and he's a different quarterback now. We also went over very briefly about the Saquon Barkley, how that was bad. Not giving him an opportunity to get the record was terrible, and I hope the Eagles don't regret putting all their eggs in the Super Bowl basket. We also broke down the NFL schedule for the weekend, some of the good games that are coming up. Talked about WJC, Team USA, back-to-back gold medal winners up at the World Juniors over the weekend in Ottawa. Flyers will be back at it tomorrow against Toronto. We talked a little bit about the Phillies. JT Realmuto was our of the night segment Phillies spotlight player at the first one of the year, as JT holds, I think, a bigger piece of the Phillies puzzle in his hands that I think a lot of people are willing to give him credit for, because I think he holds a big piece to it. And whether or not he can actually deliver, only 99 games last year, a career low for him. And of course, your card of the night was the 88 Steve Bedrosian Topps and Howard Eskin. Long live the king. Long live the king. Howard Eskin was given an open invitation to come to It's a Wrap Sports whenever he wants, to be part of whatever he wants to be part of, and to do whatever he wants on this network. All he has to do is give me a call or drop me a message. And that's it. That's the only thing I need. I just need some prior knowledge, and that's it. No other questions will be asked. So I just want to put that out. And nobody has the right to cancel anybody. And boy, the fight is on. And we talked about that too. So we will be back tomorrow night as we will continue our conversation. I will follow the post-game show, and we'll continue this great spirited conversation. For all of you out there, I hope you're staying warm. I know there's some areas of Delaware Valley that got some snow. There's some areas that got a little bit of snow, a lot of bit of snow. I hope you're staying warm. I hope you're taking the proper precautions and staying indoors. Let this stuff pass. 38 days till pitchers and catchers report to spring training. Keep that thought in your mind. Maybe it'll make you warmer. I can't wait. Until we talk again tomorrow night, I'll see you guys later.
I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I go so pure. Everybody know I'm you know when the click through to the send is about to be a so big fun.